Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Today, we are going to talk about protecting your ears and using in ear monitoring. This subject is very important to me, and personally, through the years, I have accumulated a little bit of hearing damage as well. It's not too bad. My hearing damage is very common for normal musicians who do use protection. It is usually around the high mid range, 4 to 5,000, and there's a little scoop in that area. So, a musician that's been exposed to extreme sounds over the years will definitely have hearing loss around those frequencies. And today we're addressing two things simultaneously and separately: protecting and monitoring. Let's talk about protection first. Forget the technical terms. The sound pressure levels, the volumes in an average band rehearsal could be devastating if done so for long periods at a time, let alone live gigs at venues where there's a lot more noise. There's the onstage sound, there's the crowd, there's the sound system. Altogether, one day at a time can create prolonged hearing damage. Now, the simple solution is earplugs. And you can find a whole bunch of different types of earplugs, starting from your local pharmacy. Those little spongy things that you can crush and put into your ears. Those things reduce significantly the volume you are exposed to, but also block out a lot of the important frequencies. And therefore, you might not be enjoying what you are listening to. And of course, there are the professional solutions. And I'm going to be showing you one of those today. And I'm talking about something like this. Due to the difficulty of the camera angle, I'm going to switch to another camera and show you what I'm talking about. So these are my professional earplugs. Some relate to those as musicians' ears or engineers' ears. In this case, we have a silicone type of mold that sits in your ear, molded to your personal ear, and a filter that clips on. And when this sits in your ears, it drops the volume by a certain amount. In this case, it's minus 10 dBs. This also attenuates or drops some of the harsh frequencies in the mid and high mid range. And this is helping you to protect your eardrums from excessive volumes. It's very easy to plug one of those in. You just put it in, turn it backwards, and it sits in your ear. It's very comfortable because it's silicone based. It's a soft material, so it's easy to push in, easy to get out, and it sits really, really comfortable in your ear. I got this set when I was working as a sound engineer in a local theater. And I was working there many hours every day, sometimes 2 shifts, sometimes 3 shifts a day. And being exposed to such levels of volume for such prolonged times is ridiculously dangerous. Now, those earplugs came in different attenuation levels, minus 10, minus 15, minus 21 dB. Obviously, minus 10 allowing more sound to come into your ear, minus 21 allows a lot less. Those are great if you're in a gun range or operating really heavy machinery. But I chose the minus 10 dB because it allows your ears to breathe just enough and you don't want to drop the level too much. After all, I'm mixing. And I want to be able to hear the band that I'm actually mixing for. Every now and again, I will take out the plug, just have a listen to see if everything's okay, put it back in. There's a slight difference between the room with or without the plug, but it's close enough and it saves your ears from potential harm over the days, weeks, months, and years you work in a harmful, loud environment. I take these earplugs with me in the car when I go to see another band. And most importantly, I use those in situations where I am actually a musician and cannot use in-ears at all. And those plugs have saved my ears over the last few years that I've had them. Otherwise, by now my hearing will be a lot more impaired than it is currently. Now, those were relatively inexpensive. I paid just over 1,000 Rand for the clip-on filters and the 2 molds. Now, what happens is over time your ears grow. Your ears and your nose are the 2 organs in your body that never stops growing. What happens is over time there's a slight gap that happens between the molds and your ears. And the seal that the mold creates starts to work less and less. So the solution is to have new impressions done for your ears and then new molds done. And I would say that the shelf life of an average mold is around the 5-year mark. So 5 years down the line, I had new molds made, this time in black. And as you can see, you can have something personal printed onto the back of it. These new molds cost me around 900 Rand to make. And now I have 2 sets, one that works fairly well and the new ones that work very, very well. Okay, moving on to the more fun part of this video. In-ear monitoring. In-ear monitoring has started sometime in the past 30 years and it become more and more prominent among musicians and performers. Not only it protects your ears when you put those in, because it acts as a barrier between the outside sound and the ear canal, but it also helps you hear yourself and others in the band way, way better than you would, first of all, if you don't have any monitoring, or if you have floor wedges. It's speakers that sits on the floor aimed at your face, designed to let you hear whatever you want to hear from those monitors, yourself first and foremost, and other people in your band or ensemble. And while floor wedge monitoring has been there forever and it works wonderful, having yet another sound source blowing loud sounds at you is another source for problems, and also can create other issues such as feedback from your microphone. If it's too loud, it can interrupt other musicians, and then they have to push their monitor louder to hear themselves, and then in turn, you will have to push your monitor louder. So having in-ear monitoring is a great solution. The levels can be kept very, very sane because this little speaker is sitting inside your ear. You don't need to drive it hard to hear yourself properly, or anyone else for the matter. Okay, so I started with a JTS in-ear set with universal fit, decent sounding headphones. Unfortunately, those are not the most comfortable headphones. They can easily pop out. And also what is a problem, the cable is permanently attached to the headphones. So if the cable gets damaged, the headphones becomes useless. And that was my first set. So I had to replace those headphones 2 or 3 times. At the time it was about 700 Rand for a set. So that was a great deal of cost that kept on reoccurring. So the next step was to get personal molds with detachable cables. This was my first set. It came in this leather pouch. They were okay for the time. They cost about 5,000 Rands. They are a single driver, which means there's a single speaker responsible for all the frequency range. The cable was detachable and could be easy to replace if it got damaged. I think I've had these in-ear phones for about 12 or 13 years. They've done their job, but it was time to move on to something better. These are my newest purchase. I bought them roughly 2 years ago, and they cost around the 13,000 Rand mark. This is a 6-driver set, which means it has 2 drivers for every divided frequency range: bass, mids, treble. They came in this really nice case to store and transport. Now, the majority of the cost of these are in the drivers and the electronics inside the molds. So if your ears grow or if you damage your mold, you can have your ears remeasured, have new molds done, and place the drivers in the new molds. They also have a detachable cable, and you can also print your logo or name onto the back. The Mac is Verifone, imported and manufactured locally by a company called Noise Clipper. Now, when I've done the new molds, the black molds for my earplugs, Noise Clipper also makes single driver clip-on in-ear drivers that get attached to your molds and become custom in-ear monitors. And they sounded really, really nice. In fact, they sounded better than my first molded in-ears that was done somewhere else. And although they sounded really, really decent for a single driver, it still is a single driver and can only sound as good as a single driver. The second problem is that the cable is permanently attached to the driver, and if the cable gets damaged, you have to replace the drivers again, and this is a bit more expensive. Now, as a personal project, I came up with an idea, and I spoke to the guys from Noise Clipper, where you get an in-ear on the one side and a filter on the other. And they thought about it for a while. And there's an upgrade system for those in-ears or earplugs, which is called, by the way, the 2G combo. They came up with a great solution. This is a new update to the 2G combo system. And you actually have a dual driver sitting in this little plastic container. There's a little driver. And as you can see, you can actually attach a normal cable to this. This clips onto your mold. You attach the cable, and you have a really nice 2-driver in-ear set. But what about the filter? Well, they came up with a brilliant solution. In the same plastic container, they just put a filter, which is the same filter that sits in my normal earplugs. You can also have the choice of -10, -15, or -21 dBs. I suspect that -10 or -15 will be more than enough for a performing musician. This way, in an environment when you need to actually hear the room, whether it's the crowd, other musicians around you, or you just don't want to feel a little bit more claustrophobic with both in-ear molds sitting inside blocking the sound completely. I know a lot of musicians that battle to use both of their in-ears at the same time. So this will be a great solution if you need both monitoring and protection for your ears at the same time, so you can communicate with the room, whether you're playing in a bar or in the theater. This will work great. I will leave the details in the description. Please remember to subscribe, smash that like button, comment if you have anything to say about this video, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.